On Wednesday, the 23rd of February, I took the train up to Luton to meet with professor and poetry expert Keith Jebb. Here's what he had to say.
Right, not what most people think. I think one needs to get away from the usual cliched sort of thing, does it have to rhyme, doesn't it? And start thinking about poetry in terms of language and how you can use language, what possibilities there are within language. And therefore, instead of imposing rules, one is looking at strategies. Instead of imposing form, one is looking at ways of discovering and uncovering form. Both of those, sometimes at different times, sometimes together. So you look at it as a medium, and one of the things that poetry does is crash test that medium, both in ultimate terms, what can you do with language, and also how does language function in terms of a historical continuum and the various structures in that continuum. What does history open up that poetry can do? And I think the latter one is possibly the biggest problem with a lot of current so-called mainstream, or I might call vertical establishment in English poetry, which of course is not the camp I'm coming from. I think that's probably undoubtedly the case, partly because a lot more people than if you compare the population of this country to, back in say the 1790s, the kind of Wordsworth Coleridge, so the kind of golden age, vastly more people, vastly more opportunities for publication as well, and a generally much better educated population. So the reading population of certainly here, America, Europe, all around the world, is much greater than it ever has been. What that means is that there are also more definitions of poetry, and if you look in this country, yes, you have the establishment within which there are several kind of various categories. You have all the spoken word stuff. You have the Anglo-Caribbean traditions, which even in this country are now well over 60 years old. There is a lot, and the kind of cosy idea, which I think you still do tend to get from the Arts Council, from the poetry competitions, from the poetry book kind of competitions, that somehow one can point to something and say, this is the best book of poetry published in this country. When it's like comparing ants to antelopes. It is a very silly and odd idea. But it still persists, and I hope it will continue to. There are a number of websites I would suggest. The Buffalo, New York State, Buffalo University Intellectual Poetry Society, obviously one. There's a wonderful sort of clearinghouse of information called onepoetry.org, run by Peter Philpott, which is a great place of information. In terms of finding out about younger poets, Opend has a website which is a very good clearinghouse of information about poets, about readings, events happening in London, and not just sort of focus on London, because that's kind of where we are. And I guess also, find poets, find their work on the internet, buy the damn things. Every publisher will sell its own stuff over the internet, and go to readings. Obviously I have to plug my own reading series that I have to run called The Blue Bus, which runs on the third Tuesday of every month in the lab on Man's Conduit Street. But there are series like Crossing the Line, for instance, which are also very good places to find poets, see them, talk to them, buy some books, see who you like. There's a lot of stuff out there, it's all varied, and it's certainly not for everyone. I would, of course, avoid the Poetry Society, but that's just me being partial again. I don't even think that Seamus Heaney's managed to make what will amount to a living purely out of the sales of poetry, but I wouldn't be in the job I'm in now if I wasn't a poet. And a lot of people of my generation in the more kind of imagery poetry area do find ourselves working in creative writing departments and hoping they're going to survive, or just on creative writing courses, I guess here. And obviously a lot of poets, mainstream and otherwise, make money out of the reading scene, because you can get 200, 300, sometimes £500, depending on who you are, just from doing a reading. So all the ancillary possibilities around poetry are fine. Actually, from the sales of poetry themselves, absolutely not, no. Most books are, those that aren't on print on demand tend, even big publishers, to have print runs of about 1,000. That's not going to make anybody a living. We get, because obviously on this course we teach everything. We teach poetry, fiction, the works. Focusing on the poetry in the last 3 years, I've had some very exciting poets who've gone off to start a publication careers, people like Nick Scott, who's also going to be working with me on a journal, online journal of innovative and text card poetry called Divergence. Juliet Troy is a mature student who came through. Yeah, it's like asking an astronomer, what's your favourite star, really, isn't it? Certainly couldn't go for a poem. I'll give you two poets who've been very important in terms of formative for me. One is Tom Rayworth, and the other one is Douglas Graham, who was a poet kind of on the cusp of kind of mainstream at the time, although most people know him, but has a great deal of respect to our kind of writers. Partly because he actually recognised that writing a poem was writing a poem. Not a lot of people manage to get that far.